Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers Monday Night Live. And yes, we're going to do our very best to give you a show, unlike Rangers yesterday, some may say. But to do that, I've got two of the very best. David Herd making his return from a couple of weeks away on holiday. David, good evening. How are you, mate?
It's great to be back, Stevie, although Rangers are doing their best to spoil my return, aren't they? No, mate, it's only 5 more weeks to go back to Tenerife, so I've got something to look forward to, if not the football.
And Kenny, yeah, we could do the old tired jokes of you made me do this podcast and everything else, mate. But do you know what? It is good to have you on to discuss everything.
Nice to be on. Nice to have Davey back, and nice to have him back and almost instantly tell us when he's away again, which he took great delight in doing, didn't he? We're in for a difficult one, put it that way, tonight, I think. But let's get moving.
Yeah, what we're not going to do, folks, is we're not going to come on here and spend 45 minutes moaning, because I think everybody knows. I think everybody understands where we are. And if we come on for 45 minutes and just say the same thing repeatedly, I think it'd be rather boring. So we're going to try and give you a show. We're going to try and give you some different opinions and talk about some other things. And we're going to start with Jonathan Hunter Barrett. The Academy Director is no longer happening. Was supposed to come, obviously, in the next few weeks. Very much a Kevin Thelwell appointment. That has been kiboshed, so to speak. I think a mutual decision by both parties is the official party line from Rangers and from his camp, which is interesting. Davey, Kenny, I'm going to ask you both the same thing. Pretty much looks like we're now distancing ourselves from Kevin Thelwell and that leadership. That was one that, in fairness to Jonathan Hunter Barrett, I don't think he stood a chance, because he's tainted already by Kevin Thelwell. And I think the right decision here has been made, as much as it's not a popular one a positive one for Rangers, as that position is still open. I think it's one that had to be made, because putting him in that position would have been a hiding to nothing immediately.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that any way of distancing the club from the Thelwell disaster from the summer has to be a good thing. I agree with you that the man himself would have been in a hiding to nothing, because he was appointed by Kevin Thelwell, so he'd be fighting against the wind from before he even started. The positive side of me hopes that it's a sign that there's some new sporting director candidate in the background saying he didn't want him, and he's got his own opinions on who it should be. I don't know if that's the case, but what I do know is that whoever does replace Thelwell, I hope it's soon, because we really need a bit of direction at that end of the club getting into the January transfer window, and that's not too far away.
Kenny, are you jumping in anytime?
I will, yes. Listen, for me, it's not entirely unexpected, but at the same time, it's a kind of difficult one for the man himself. We understand that, but it does look very much like Rangers are actually going to detach themselves from as much as possible of what Kevin Thelwell's done here, doesn't it? That's what it looks like to me, that they've just decided that that's not a good idea. And I agree with Davey. I hope somebody is already in line and has suggested somebody else, but it's Rangers, so we don't know. We don't know if that's the case or not at this moment in time. But I actually, as I said, I think we mentioned this when he was officially announced, and I did a little bit of digging on him, and he actually looks quite good at his job. So I'm not saying I'm disappointed, but I'm not overly impressed with this either, because again, it's just 0 days from a last nonsense kind of thing. That, why are we? How would I put this? It shows you how quick the Kevin Thelwell situation has actually arisen for the owners, actually, because that was only announced, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it shows you that everything in the last couple of weeks has just been thrown right up in the air. So listen, good luck to the guy. I believe he's staying at Wolves. I hope he goes on to have a great career. But I agree with you two guys. I don't think it would have coming here would have helped his career very much, because he'd have been under pressure from the very get-go, and if he wasn't producing superstars within a year, then people would always just point to the fact of who appointed him and said it's not working. So good luck to him, and I hope he does well at Wolves.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't wish this guy any ill at all. He's probably in the wrong movie, much like many of our first team players are. I can't help but feel, David, that Dan Purdy and Robbie Thelwell will follow quite quickly. I think it's a case of the club maybe, or Andrew Kavanagh and things, not wanting to do everything at once. I think that your suggestion that somebody might be in the background would hopefully make sense. And I would think that when they come in, they would make their own decisions surrounding them anyway. I don't expect Kevin Thelwell's team that he surrounded himself with as such to be in place for the considerable future. We might see a short-term future for them, but once those people do come in, like you mentioned, I think you'll start to see more of them move on also.
Yeah, I can't see any future for Thelwell Jr. or Dan Purdy, to be honest. I think that any new sporting director will want to put his appointments in. That happens everywhere. It wouldn't surprise me at all if some point over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks we get a couple of announcements that those two individuals have left by mutual consent, and thanks very much for their efforts, and we wish you well in the future. It looks to me as if we're just drawing a line under what was the worst set of decisions in a summer that I can remember, and I think what we need to do is just draw a line under it as quick as we can and put the right people in place this time, hopefully.
Yeah, it's most certainly about the recovery and what we do next, Kenny, but I don't see a future for these guys. I think Jonathan Hunter-Barrett not coming in is a real indication that the board, just like sacking them a couple of weeks ago, are admitting here, or Andrew Kavanagh and the owners are admitting here, we've made mistakes, and now we're trying to unpick it as best we can.
Which is quite the thing when you stop and consider what an incredible few months this has been, where you get the highs of the takeover, and you find yourself in this situation where we are at this moment in time. And I've got a little bit of an admiration for Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi and the 49ers for actually, almost to a certain degree, putting their hands up and saying, listen, we've got this monumentally wrong, and we're going to have to fix this. And fix it as quickly as we can. I think decisions like this, where, as I say, I don't know, was this a tipping point for them or something like that? We genuinely don't know, but the amount of appointments that Kevin Thelwell was making that had a direct, link to him must have been a concern. It was a concern to us on this podcast. It was a concern to most Rangers fans, because every time you looked, well, he was at Wolves, or he was at Everton, or he was, and it's his son, all these kind of things. And I don't know. I said last week when the rumour, I think it was on Wednesday, we were on, Stevie, that the rumour last week that young Thelwell, Robbie Thelwell, had been sacked. I thought that was very unfair. I thought that's quite unkind to kind of make that rumour up, because the boy was basically in the door a few days and people are making rumours that weren't true up. But that's the nature of the beast here. And I think this is where, from Kavanagh to Thelwell and all the way down, players included, they've just been completely caught off guard by how big and how intense Glasgow and Glasgow Rangers is. And will Dan Purdy remain? I have no idea. Will Robbie Thelwell remain? Probably not. I think it must be very, very uncomfortable for the boy. As for Dan Purdy, no, doesn't look like. Let's just look at the signings at this minute in time and say he would have been actively involved in that. So no, I can't see them lasting at all, Stevie.
No, I don't think they will. It's a situation we'll just have to wait and see. I think that it's obvious. I think the feeling around this is that every Rangers fan would rather that those people involved in everything that went on in the summer were removed from the club. I don't speak for everyone. It just seems, or it feels like the opinion. That's probably a better way to put it. Gentlemen, we have to talk about yesterday, unfortunately. Rangers versus Falkirk 0-0. Davey, you'll testify to this. I turned to you and Cheryl after about 15 minutes and said, I want to go home, because it really was one of those days where we could have literally played all afternoon and never score. I'm going to just call a spade, and I've got into trouble a lot for this, but I don't see that there's any other way of saying it. Rangers aren't good enough. These players are massively, massively not good enough for this football club. I think there's a few of them that have down tools and packed up and want to go back home as soon as possible, and I'm quite happy to facilitate that as quickly as possible. We are not a good football team. Danny Rule, who we'll discuss as well, is not beyond criticism, but is dealing with a shit show that he didn't create, he inherited. And he is trying to throw shit at the wall and hoping something sticks. You only have to look at that team yesterday. But Rangers are a boring team to watch. We're beige, we're negative, we are passive, we are so one-paced. It is chronic to watch. And there is no point, ladies and gentlemen, coming on here and talking and saying other things. There was 3 shots on target yesterday. The players just aren't up to it. We don't create chances. We don't do things we should be doing. And there's no point, Davey, in me coming on here and saying otherwise. This is a football team that will limp to January, and we need to pray to Laudrup himself and hope that they can fix it, because this is a mess that I just didn't see coming. And it's a weird thing, because just when you think you've hit a low, Rangers go, no, hold my beer, we can go lower than this. And Sunday yesterday for me was as low, as tough as it gets for me. I was particularly down after that, and it's just a level now of knowing that every single game you go to, you're not going with much hope. You're going with just can they do something? Because at least before we had hope, we had players, you could look at. I look at that team now and I look at that squad and there's nothing there, and it's very worrying. This isn't a fixable thing, just with 2 or 3 players, Davey, and that's the most worrying thing. But yesterday was beyond. It was beyond even levels I thought we could get to. And that takeaway, I want to say this, no offence to Falkirk. Very well organised, great manager, great bunch of honest players. But Rangers as a team are playing like a mid-table team, and they are a mid-table team because these players are just simply not up to it.
I don't know how to add anything constructive to what you've just said, Stevie. I said in this pod a few weeks back that I was of the opinion that after watching Rangers since the late 1960s, that this was the worst top flight Rangers team I'd ever seen. And they've done nothing to persuade me that statement I made was wrong. We've got defenders that can't defend. We've got players in the middle who can't create and can't win the midfield battle. We've got so-called number 10s and creative players who do absolutely nothing except go backwards. And we've got strikers that can't score. You put the whole thing together and you just say, no wonder we're sitting after, how many games we've played? 13, is it? We've only won 5 of them. It's absolutely horrendous. It's horrendous. And you look forward to the next set of fixtures that we've got in December, and honestly, I'm not confident of winning any of them. not a single one of them. And that's absolutely criminal. And it's even more criminal when you think that we spent, they keep telling us they spent this net £20 million in the summer. It's hard to believe we could have identified almost an entire new team with almost no improvement in it from a team that won nothing last year. At the end of last season, the 3 of us sat here and said there wasn't a single player that we would miss if they left. We're going to go into the January transfer window, and I'm going to be saying the same thing again. And that is the most incredible condemnation of what happened in the summer. And no wonder those who were involved in it are either away or hopefully going to be leaving soon. Yesterday was, no wonder there was, they gave the crowd out as 50,000, but no wonder there was at least 10,000 empty seats inside Ibrox yesterday. The fans aren't stupid. They're not going to keep watching that. Hospitality is not selling out. Sponsors aren't turning up. No wonder. The 49ers must be losing an absolute fortune compared to the financial projections they must have had for this season. And they're only going to start putting it right when they put a decent Rangers team on the park.
Davey, you did say, and Kenny will ask you this, you said it was one of the worst Rangers teams you've ever seen the top flight. And I was wondering at the time, is that harsh? The answer is no. The answer is no, it's not. And even in and this is how bad it is, even in those Caixinha teams and things like that, you had players that you could at least look to that would excite you a wee bit. And I'm talking about, and I'm not saying the easy answer or whatever else, but you still had Josh Windasses, you still had Nico Kranjčars, who were well past it, but were able to turn up in games. And you know, I equate yesterday's game a wee bit to like when Partick Thistle came up and Nico Kranjčar scored a couple and we beat them 2-0. We were still capable of winning games under the Warburtons and Caixinhas and everything else. Yesterday, we just didn't look capable, Kenny. And that's the biggest thing about this team right now. We don't look capable of scoring. We don't create chances. And when we do create chances, because yesterday, Thelo Asgard and Jerry Gisama, who missed another one-on-one, did have big chances. But they're fleeting. They're more by accident than they are by design. It's just not good enough from start to finish. And I just don't believe in this team. That's the biggest thing for me. I want Danny Rowe to do well. I just don't believe in this team.
Well, I came on here and before I come on, I had decided I'm going to try not to boot this team in the balls too hard because it's not their fault they're here. We all know where the underlying problem is. And it's gone, and hopefully we can start to move on and rectify that. However, I'm one of those guys that I just look at January and I don't think there's any magic bullet there at all. I think January is notoriously difficult. If you want a decent player, you've got to pay twice the amount that you would normally have to pay in the summer because clubs just don't need to sell at that particular time of the year or don't want to sell for their own reasons. There is no imagination in this. I've seen a lot of folks say about creativity that there is zero creativity either, but it's the imagination of these players. There is nothing going on in their heads when they're moving forward. You can tell because if there is a pass on, they point blank refuse to take that opportunity or that risk. They will pass it sideways or they will pass it back before they'll lose the ball. And it shows you, as what I alluded to 5-10 minutes ago, that I think we've signed a bunch of players. And I've got an admission to make that I actually come on here in the summer and I thought a lot of these guys, when you looked at the data and stuff like that, looked like really good players that would be able to take the step up. The one ingredient that data won't tell you is character. They can't, stats can't tell you how a boy's personality, and so many of these guys have just retreated right into their own shell. You've said it already that there's an awful lot of them phoning it in. They do not want to be here. They can't handle it. They can't handle the pressure. It's that simple. Now, as an older guy, I'm going to turn around and say this, that I don't believe that's their fault. I think it's just a natural reaction. If you don't have that personality, then that's exactly what human nature is going to make them do, is retreat backwards. And that's what they're doing. And that's down to the recruitment of this summer. And when it comes to yesterday, I mean, there is virtually zero we could say about yesterday. I think we had two or three shots on target in 90 minutes. And no creativity, as I said, no. The only good thing you could say, the only positive is that they did keep a clean sheet, and big Manny Fernandez actually I thought was all right from what I seen of it. As I say, I get in late, so I just find it very disappointing that we have found ourselves in this situation where you've seen comments that Pedro's team would have beat this team, Matt Warburton's team would have beaten this team. The team in the 80s would have absolutely, that was finishing third, fourth, and fifth every season would hammer this team. The simple fact is that what we have at this minute in time, and this trust me, this pains me to say this. This is a mid-table, bang average Premier League side that we have at this minute in time, and we discussed this, the three of us, but over this network for weeks, months now, that the core failing at Rangers Football Club, despite people's comings and goings here, is the lack of a realisation that Rangers is built on winning things. You need a spine of experience and ability and leadership to do that, and we just don't have it, Stevie. What we have is, without, as I say, putting these kids in the balls too hard, is we've got a shower of wee boys that are finding it very tough to play for a club the size of Glasgow Rangers, because when you stop and you look at where they've all came from, they're just not up to it. That's all I can say.
I just like the fact you said that you weren't going to kick them too much in the balls and then promptly just kick them in the balls for the next 5 minutes. For me, it looks like, David, these players are in their own movie. People ask, how did Asgard get a game for Norway? Tell Asgard is surrounded by Erling Haaland and better players at Norway. So he does assist, he does play well, he can link up. The truth of the matter is, he's a player that needed to be in a better team, and we brought him in to be our star man, and he's nowhere near ready. There's too many players in that Rangers team, and by too many, I mean every single one, that look to the guy to decide to go and do something and don't do it themselves. And then he just passes and passes and passes. You only have to look at Max Aarons. And, this is a guy that's had, highs of careers and went to Valencia and didn't play there. And we wondered, why has he only played 4 times? And you only have to look at him to figure out why. This is a guy that is just a complete shadow of the player that he used to be. Every time he runs forward, he passes back. Tello Asgard almost hiding in plain sight because these guys don't want the ball. I think Oliver Antman looks like he's in their own movie, in their own country. He just doesn't look comfortable at Rangers at all. And even when he does, he's looking up and there's nobody to pass to. There's nobody to feed off. It's all very safe. Connor Barron was our best player yesterday. Again, most creative player. Again, came closest to scoring. Again, and I mean that shot just on the stroke of half time that just kind of whizzed by was probably arguably as close as, put it like this, I thought when he hit it he had nestled, but he didn't. Connor Barron's a defensive midfielder who was brought into this club as being a rotational guy. For me, Davey, January might become easier because I don't imagine there's a hell of a lot of these players that fancy staying at this club at the moment. And I look at Tello Asgard, who wants to go to the World Cup next year, and I'll be saying to him, I'm sorry, Tello, it's not worked here. If you stay here, you'll not be playing. So it's up to you what you want to do. And I'll be looking to move him on. And I'm sorry, but Majowski, Chermiti, Antman, Rothwell, Aarons, Giga, Cornelius, there's not too many in there from the summer that I'm looking to keep at all. I'm sorry, it's to be so negative, but for me, the question is, has some of them called it in? For me, they have.
Well, they're certainly playing as if they have. I must admit, I do have my doubts that we can basically rip up an entire team and put a new one in January. I think that sounds a bit unrealistic.
No, I don't think we can either, David, but we have to start. You have to build something from January. You have to put a platform in.
Totally agree. And I keep saying we've talked about this before, but before the season started, we talked about the team needed a new spine, and we talked about it needed experience and leadership, and it needed bad losers and will to win and people that understood the club. We said all those things in the summer. It get completely ignored in the recruitment process that we followed, and we're going to say exactly the same thing when the January transfer window comes around. We absolutely need at least one really good, experienced leader at the back, which we don't have. We need at least one playmaker, number 6, leader, organiser in midfield. We need at least one, probably 2, goal-scoring centre forwards that can lead the line. A spine. It's a spine that has to come first. And as regards guys like Asgard, I couldn't agree more with you. There's 3 or 4 of them that sit in that category that if you want to play for your international team, then you need to play for your club team. This club team doesn't suit you. Go and find a club team that does, because you don't have the mentality, you don't have the attitude, the approach that's needed at a team that wants to win every single week. I do feel a little bit that Asgard's just a kind of symbol of everything that's wrong, if you like. It's far more than just him, unfortunately. But yeah, I do think
he's a lightning rod, hasn't he? Sorry, David, he's become a lightning rod a wee bit, hasn't he?
I think so. I mean, it's actually quite. I was looking up earlier about since Danny Rowe took over these 9 games, who he's picked and who he hasn't picked. He's used 22 players already. He obviously doesn't really trust any of them, or else he would be playing the same team far more often. 22 players in just 9 games. I mean, I thought he'd picked Asgard every week. Asgard's only started 5 times, and in those 5, he's been taken off at half-time twice. So to me, it's pretty obvious that he has been getting chances, not taking them, and getting hauled back off again. And you were there yesterday at the press conference that I was at. The manager actually specifically got asked about, do you feel as if you've given some players one chance too many, or too many opportunities? And his answer pretty much was yes. And I'm pretty sure Asgard and guys like Majowski and guys like Ant-Man are probably the ones that he was talking about.
Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. I was about to ask you, Kenny. People are beginning to criticise Danny Rowe, and I'll have my say on it. But I'm intrigued to find out what you've got in regard to your thoughts on Danny Rowe, Kenny.
I'm a wee bit baffled by some of the team selections. Even more baffled by some of the substitutions at times. But then you've got to counter that by turning and say, what's he dealing with? What's he trying to work with? If I have an issue with Danny Rowe at all at the minute, it's exactly what we have just discussed. Boys like Tello Asgard, for me, should be nowhere near this team now. He's had more than ample opportunity to show that he has the ability and he can progress and create and score goals and assist goals, and he's not doing that. So to play in that position for Rangers, you need to be creating, you need to be helping the team score football, score goals, I beg your pardon. And he isn't. So for me, Bayrami or Lyle Kamara are both better options than them. They've proven already that they're better than Tello Asgard for me. Max Aarons at left back's another one I don't understand. We've watched him since, right at the start when this season when Russell Martin put him at left back. He's not a left back. He should never be there. Again, that's partly down to what else has he got. If McGoma's not 100%, then he's going to have to put somebody there, and it's naturally going to be him. But you can't blame him for the lack of ability in this squad. It's nothing to do with him. So it's a difficult one because Rangers fans are going to do this. This is what we do. We'll question absolutely everything. When yesterday after the game, I was genuinely questioning some of the things that Danny Rowe done. But with hindsight, you look at it and go, there's nothing. What's he meant to do, really? This is a bad outfit that he's trying to get results with. And the only thing you can say is that 5 league games in, he's got 13 points out of 15. Yesterday was a horrific performance, yeah. But we can only really start to judge him when he starts to get his own players in. And from there, you can start to judge what he's trying to do, because I think he is just putting square pegs in round holes to try and get results at this moment in time.
Davey, Danny Rowe?
I think that Danny Rowe has probably been given the worst hand that any new Rangers manager has been given that I've ever known. You could argue that Gerrard inherited just about as bad a squad, but Gerrard arrived in May and was able to bring some new players in before he had to play a game, and he had a summer with them. Rowe's inherited an absolute disaster of a squad, and he's got no options but to try and get a tune out of them. does he deserve some criticism? Yeah, I'm sure he does. I think all of us think that Cameron and Curtis have been terribly underutilised. When I said he'd used 22 players, they're the only 2 out of the 22 he hasn't started at all. They've only come on as substitutes, and that baffles me a little bit when I look at the performances of some others. But in saying all that, we're no longer facing 25 shots on goal every game that we were under Russell Martin. We've only conceded 2 goals in 5 league games under him. We got clean sheets at Dens Park, clean sheet at Easter Road. We won both of them. We would never have done that under the previous head coach. I think we've everything right, absolutely not. But he's got an absolutely horrendous hand to deal with, and I don't envy him trying to navigate through December. He's been trying all kinds of different players. He's been trying different formations. I think that will continue through the rest of the month as he scrabbles about, throwing what at the wall, trying to come up with something. Because I sit and look at that squad and I've got no idea, for example, who I would play against in United on Wednesday night. And I'm pretty sure he's probably sitting there saying, what the hell will I do as well?
Yeah, okay. So here's where I am on Danny Rule, and it's pretty much what Davey and Kenny have said. He can only piss with the cock he's got. And unfortunately, that's a squad and players that are massively not up to it at Rangers Football Club. And I'll say it again, he is throwing shit at a wall. You've seen that with selection yesterday. His front 3, front 4, I think, Davey, you said were completely different. And he is. I mean, the optics of the formation of the performance wasn't great. We all thought it was boring. We all kind of struggled. But if you look at it, if Asgard or Gassama takes their chances, then we probably win that game and we go away saying 15 from 15 for Rule. He's doing a really good job with such a crap squad, and that's the truth. It doesn't change had we got beat yesterday or as we did draw. I don't think this is on Danny Rule. Do I want him to make changes? Yes, I do. He said in the presser that, as David commented on, that players have probably had too much of an opportunity. So with that, I'd like to see players come out. I'd like to see others come in. But, that isn't a magical wand. I want Finlay Curtis to get game time. I want Lyle Cameron to get game time because it's not that I think they're massively wonderfully different from anyone else. It's just I think they'll run through a brick wall, and I think they'll try, and I think they know their way to go, which we don't have at the moment. And I do think that Finlay Curtis takes Gassama's chance yesterday. I do think that Lyle Cameron probably scores Tello Asgard's header, and those are the difference when we're in this position at the moment in time. So yes, I would play them, and I would go with them. So I would like to see Rule do that in the coming weeks. And you know what? Is Finlay Curtis as good as Oliver Antman in paper? Is he as experienced? No, but is Oliver Antman playing at the moment to keep Finlay Curtis out? The answer, no, he's not. So we need to do different things and we need to change it up. I think Danny Rule is a very honest guy. I'll say this again, I've struck up a bit of a kind of relationship with him, and there's been a few times where it looks like he generally wants to say, fucking hell, mate, have you seen this? And the answer, Danny, would be yes, unfortunately, I have seen this. And it was the same yesterday. So I think he looks a frustrated guy. I think he looked at in the press conference yesterday. I think there's things that he probably wants to say and knows that he can't. He knows that he's got another 10 games with this squad before he can do anything. And that's on the provision that we were to be ready for January 1st. And don't forget, it's not like he can suddenly chuck them all under the bus the way that, we might want him to, because he still has to go to Dundee United, Kelly, Hearts, etc., and have these guys playing with him. So he is, I would go as far as to say I agree with what Davey said with regards to, being the most difficult hand a Rangers manager has ever had. Then he's certainly up there with it. I can only hope, my only hope is he switches it up a wee bit. And they might not be the magical answers. It might not even be what we're needing, but it certainly would make a change from... I would rather watch Rangers on Wednesday night at Tannadice and know that I've got Cameron and Curtis running through a brick wall for me than watching guys thumbing in a performance, which is what I think I'm seeing on a match day at the moment. Moving on, guys. Jack Butland presser said Rangers have to be better, up to the rest of the team to help the forwards. Unfair to judge the forwards. Insists the team as a whole have to be braver and take more risks. He was very honest when I spoke to him. Hands up, folks, and I'll put them up right now. I actually made a mistake when I spoke to Jack. I asked Jack what he made of a disgraceful performance. I meant to say disappointing. That's the God's honest truth. It was in my head, and I'd been reading comments and everything else online, everybody's thoughts, and I just said the wrong thing. I said it to Jack afterwards. I didn't mean to put him in that position. I was actually quite relaxed, and I just said the wrong thing, Davey. But I thought he handled it well, and I thought it was a good presser from Jack. He is the one I think you would look at. He always speaks well, and he always seems to get wheeled out. He doesn't shy away from it, and I thought he was very honest. I think he's well aware that we're extremely short, but I thought he handled everything quite well.
Yeah, but before he walked into the room, we did predict it would either be him or the captain, didn't we? After the performance that we had, because it would be one of the old heads that would come in and try and show their experience in the press room. I thought he dealt with it pretty well. He got asked about what he thought about the defence in front of him, and he kind of tried to defend the two players in front of him, but also admitted that Giga in particular had been struggling for confidence, which I think was fair. I must admit, I didn't quite agree with him in terms of the forwards don't deserve any criticism, but he's not going to sit and criticise his teammates, is he? He must be looking from the other end of the pitch, wondering what the hell's going on at the other end, because the other goalkeeper's standing doing very little. But Butland's the least of our worries at the moment. After the summer, when I was saying that we had to have a new goalkeeper, probably that's maybe just about one of the few players that I do think we need to keep in January. I think he's been possibly the busiest goalkeeper in the Europa League this year, and that's unlikely to change by the time the Europa League group stage finishes.
Kenny, the official attendance yesterday, believe it or not, was 50,000 odd. The truth is, and it was high against Braga. I can't remember if it was quite 40 odd thousand against Braga, and then Livy was 46, 47,000. The truth is, there's slightly over 30,000 inside Ibrox for every single game this last week. It's a worrying trend. People are choosing now not to go. People that have paid for tickets. I couldn't give away tickets yesterday. There was people posting on my post on Thursday night when we tried to give away tickets for Braga. I've got a free one. It's a sorry state at this moment in time. How does that? I mean, that's obviously got to be a concern to Andrew Kavanagh. I think that's clear. But how do they get the supporters back? Because we're in real danger here of them drifting, and a lot. You can almost feel the apathy in the ground. A lot of them have just written this season off already. By the way, and that's with good reason.
Yeah, of course, there's good reason. I've just mentioned, 10 minutes ago that this is a kind of mid-table team. That's the level we're at. Now, again, I don't want to go and hark back to stuff that we've repeated over the period of a long period of time now, actually. But I've been saying this for a long time, that it's so obvious when you're in Ibrox. It's obvious when you're talking to your mates. It's obvious when you go online. It's obvious places of work. There's no patience amongst Rangers fans, and I'm a little bit annoyed actually now that when you consider that squad build and you look at it and you say to yourself that that's horrendous. Now we are the ones that are giving trust to the owners and to the board, and year in year out, regardless to who the owner is or the board is, they're making a mess of this. And I've been saying it for a long, long time that you can just tell the tolerance levels are not there, Stevie. It's not just about patience anymore. It's not even about loyalty. I genuinely believe that you'll not get a more loyal fan base than the Rangers fan base. You look what happened to us in 2012 and the way we have rallied for the last 13 years, coming up for 14 years now. And the place has been sold out just about every week, isn't it? Just by that mad time when there was a boycott, it's been pretty much sold out consistently for years and years. And football's an entertainment business. You've got to entertain us, and that's the fare that you're serving up, and that's the issue, Stevie. You put players in a team that befit the jersey, and we'll all come back very, very quickly. Or those that are not going will all come back very, very quickly. You need to see a Rangers team. This is nothing like a Rangers team. It's a Rangers team in name and name only. And the hospitality stuff we've heard about for a long time. Attendances are clearly dropping. I think David said about 40. I actually thought there was about 30,000 in that ground yesterday. I thought at least 1 in every 3 seats was empty. It was quite nuts, and it's just where we're at, Stevie. It's an entertainment business. You have to entertain us, and you have to make sure that when you're at Rangers and you own Rangers, that you're challenging for titles and trophies and doing well enough in Europe that people want to buy tickets and don't want to give the fucking things away. That's where we're at. So I've got very little sympathy, to be honest with you, because I've been saying for about 18 months on this show that this is coming. So it is what it is, I'm afraid.
Davey, final bit of news yesterday. Annan at home in the Scottish Cup. Yeah, there would be a time where you would say, play your second string and play your reserves, and that'll be a good fixture to have. But well, I would hope by the time that game comes along, we would be in a better place. That's for sure. But at least it's a home draw, which we hopefully will relish. And it's against a lower league team. We've been here last season, you know what happened there. But yeah, I think for housekeeping reasons, that was the kind of last bit of news, I think, for the weekend.
Yeah, I think the current Rangers team, that's the kind of draw we needed, to be honest with you. It's one of the few games, one of the few draws I looked at and said, oh, we'll definitely win that. Although I said that about Queen's Park last year. God knows what kind of crowd we'll get, but you would like to think that that's a pretty straightforward tie, and hopefully we'll have a few new faces in the team to give them a bit of confidence in scoring a few goals against a team like that. Of course, I won't be there, Stevie, because I'll be in Tenerife at the time. So if you know anybody that's looking for a ticket, just give me a shout, because mine will be available. I had to do it again, didn't I?
Smashing, Davey. If only you would take half of this fucking squad on holiday with you, we wouldn't have a problem. You're away so much. Gents, let's call it a night there, folks. We've done about 45 minutes. What I didn't want to do was to come on tonight and give you a show that just ranted and raved for 45 minutes without any solutions, without any answers. The truth is that we are normal supporters. We've been going for decades now between all of us, and we only want what's best for Rangers Football Club. And if we come on here and try and sugarcoat it, then it doesn't become real, and I won't allow that. And what I don't want to do also is turn you all off by having a show that's just constant moaning and complaining. I hope we've at some ways at least tried to be constructive. Do you know what's really bad about it? I'm off to Tannadice on Wednesday night, 37 fucking quid for a ticket. It'll be freezing. I'll moan my chops off, but I wouldn't rather be anywhere else than watching my team. I would rather probably be sunnier watching my team and warmer than it's going to be, but we have that. On Wednesday, we will have the post-match reaction. There will be a match vlog up from me going with the Rhino Express guys as normal. Really looking forward to seeing all them, at least. So we'll be back on Wednesday. Gentlemen, Davey, first of all, great to have you back. Never mentioned your holiday once. Worse than me telling people that I've lost 4 stone of weight. You'd go on about your holidays so much, mate. Well,
the problem I've got is I've put half a stone on, so I've got that problem coming up to Christmas. Yeah, it's great to be back. Obviously, it would have been better if I had a victory to talk about, but onwards and upwards, and hopefully in the weeks ahead we'll have something better to talk about.
Hopefully, Kenny, as always, my man, always a pleasure. Thank you for your honesty and coming on, mate. Much appreciated.
No, not at all. Difficult one to sit and discuss because Rangers are not in a good place. We know that, but on another note, I hope Davey falls asleep and burns his head to fucking Tenerife.
Did it before.
Yeah. I won't. I hope you have a lovely time, Davey. I really do. Really, honestly, I do. Big thanks to our sponsors: Rhino Express, Clyview Fire Protection and Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, and Candid. Local dart shop. A bit of a change from our Sunday sponsored iSport Media. Hello everyone, I am Online Dart Shop, just not changed the name on here. Would happily install dartboard, commercial and residential premises, post board, lights, darts, etc., including price. A few people have had this done with John, and it's a great service. So if any of you are looking for that kind of stuff, get in touch. Yeah, and folks, thank you for all your comments, your likes, all your views. The people that have subscribed to the podcast, just thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it. All your support is helping us grow. And yeah, really appreciate it. I think we're fast approaching 12,000 subs, which is amazing for us. If you haven't, please do like and subscribe if you want to become a member and get some extra shows. I think we're recording tomorrow night. Next episode of the New Rangers Book Club will be out with Davey, so that'll be out soon as well. We're still looking for people to come on to First and Favourites. So if you're a fan of Four Lads and you fancy going on the show with Davey, again, drop us an email, fourladsadream@gmail.com, and we will get back to you. Have a wonderful evening, folks. And yes, we will see you again on Wednesday. Just win, Rangers. Just fucking win. See the thing, just put the ball in the goal and it just makes everything easier. Yes. Head and Shoulders, we're still available for sponsorship, folks. Get in touch. Take care. Have a wonderful evening. See you all Wednesday.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.